Wait. There. We're live. Welcome. I'm Andy Andrews. This is the Blue Plate Special. We're here in Orange Beach, Alabama at Wisdom Harbor Studios at the Wharf, home of the famous Marlin statues and the infamous escalator statues. Yes, they are life-size, they look real, and you can take your picture with them when you come visit. How do you like the t-shirt? The t-shirt is from $100 Lifestyles. And Matt, can we see the back of that shirt? Look at that. I think that's a nice shirt. They have millions of nice shirts, and they're the cornerstone of the Wharf. We have people here in studio. We're so glad you guys are here. Hey. All right. The Olsons from North Carolina. Is that you guys? Is that you guys? Well, I got to turn my phone off. I can't believe this. We were running a second or two late. So you from North Carolina. Have you ever read the book The Old Man and the Boy? Need to read that. It was written before I was born. It's maybe my favorite book. And it's set in Wilmington, North Carolina, in the 1920s, before the Depression. And it's written by the boy about growing up with his granddad, hunting and fishing and out in the woods. And it's just a great book. It's an awesome book. And Martha from Arkansas. Right. So how are the hogs doing this year? You know, SB doesn't like it when I mention any other team other than Alabama. But anyway, you know, hogs, you have the same color. We had, at the hunting camp a few years ago, we grabbed a little pig. I mean, he was like, we just chased him down. And so we had him in the house with us for a couple of days and fed him grapes and stuff like that. And he was like a little football pig, you know, and he was red as he could be. And I'll have to show you sometime a picture of that little pig following Austin around. And I mean, this little red, wild pig. And I thought, man, I could sell that pig for $1,000 to a drunk Arkansas fan. You know, I mean, a red Razorback that'll follow you around. Be great. We have a great show for you today. We're glad you guys are here in the studio. Matt Jack is out there. Hey, buddy, how are you doing? All good? It is kind of a gray day here. You know, but it's sunny inside. Matthew, how you doing?
Feeling sunny.
All right, feeling sunny. George Kosser, watching on YouTube today. You just watched Julie Richard. Listen, that podcast that just came out this morning with Julie Richard, she is the founder of Fearless Mom. And George Kosser says it's hilarious. And it is. I just, you know, Julie Richard is one of these people that every time I'm around Julie, I find myself after 30 or 40 minutes kind of doing this. It's like, oh, my cheeks are hurting. You know, I'm just laughing so hard. But she is awesome. You have to watch that podcast, The Professional Noticer. And, you know, there's another thing. If you guys are, well, first of all, if you're new, we're glad to have you. And if you're on Facebook, if you would click that notification button, okay, and then turn the notifications on your phone. It's from my wife. But if you click the notification button and turn the notifications on your phone, then every time we go live here at Wisdom Harbor Studios, you will be personally notified. Let's see, YouTube. If you're there with George Causer, please press the subscription button. That would help. And welcome you guys on Twitter. And welcome everybody on LinkedIn. I got you all over the world here. Hannah Gadlich, hello to you. Kristen Smith from Peru. And Joy Gregory. You like the color? Yeah, I do too. Dave Sisson from Pensacola, Florida, right there. Marcy Crosser Taylor from Pasco, Washington. Sean Falls from Indiana. Bob Woodall, call Bob. Hey, buddy, listen, you and I, we have to talk, okay? We have to talk because we got a lot of plans, I got big plans for you. Nancy Bergen, good morning from Monte Vista, California. Greg Brownlee, being positive in Norman, Oklahoma. Now, are you positive or are you being positive? I mean, positive's not necessarily good these days. I mean, you can be positive or you can, be positive. Right? So, who knows? I guess positive and negative don't have the same connotation. Kimberly Petrucki, North Texas is gorgeous. Hey, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to talk just a little bit more to a few of you guys, but we have a great show. I'm telling you, a great show. I'm gonna read to you from my newest favorite book, and I've called the author today. I've gotten his permission to read some excerpts from this book, and so we'll get to that in just a minute. Deanna Kilpatrick, thank you. And you shared. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. If you're on Facebook, if you can click that button and just share to your page, and then your friends will get to see the silliness that you get to see. So, why should you be alone? Well, I think Juice DeWitt from Spokane Valley, Washington, you shared. Hey, are you guys on the VIP mailing list? I'm just curious. Because every Friday we send out an exclusive coupon code for different products in the shop. And last Friday we had found some old, they're brand new, but they were just kind of lost around here. Storms of Perfection books was the first books I ever did, and we added all 4 volumes to the store, and these books, they were the first books I ever did, and they were a collection of letters from, each has 52 letters from people that you either know who they are or you know what they've done. And they're letters that were written to me on their letterhead, in their own words, their signature at the bottom, telling about the biggest problem or worst rejection they had before they became successful. Everybody only hears the success stories. And so years ago, I started writing to people, asking them, tell me about your tough times. I was having some tough times, and I wanted to hear some of that. And so those became 4 volumes called Storms of Perfection. And man, we got some amazing, just amazing people in it. Kenny Rogers and Joan Rivers and Bob Hope and the presidents of companies, and just some amazing people. But we sent out a coupon code to the VIP mailing list on Friday, and we do that every Friday. And so we sent out this for 35% off those books. And by Friday evening, we're totally sold out of the hardcover copies of Volume 1 and all the copies of Volume 2. So if you're not already on the VIP newsletter, you're missing out on the weekly discounts, but also a chance to pick up some unique and limited items. So to sign up, you just go to andyandrews.com/VIP and just put your email address in. I promise not to sell your email address. I'm not going to give it to any intelligence organization around the world. So we just like to keep you up about what we're doing. John Pate says he remembers when I wrote that, and that we talked about it at some point when you're getting tire track art. You know, this book, it was one of the hardest things that I ever put together, because I thought, well, that's a good idea, you know, to ask people for their, and I had the idea that I was going to have 52 letters in the book, so that would be like, you know, kind of one a week or something, and I was turned down 50 something times before I ever got the first letter. And obviously those first 50 something people, those were the ones that I thought would do it. You know, I mean, that's the first 50 something I sent out requesting. And I never will forget, I got the very first letter I got was from Jack Hanna, Jungle Jack Hanna. You remember Jack Hanna from the Columbus Zoo? And he was on Letterman all the time. Roger Horson from Branson, Missouri. Hey, you guys. But this, you know, it ended up, to get the 52 letters in the first book, I was turned down like 400 and something. I don't remember exactly. 400. I've got it actually written down somewhere. The 400. And I thought, man, you know, I'm writing a book about rejection. I'm getting taught a lesson about it. But isn't that the way life works? Anyway, hey, let's talk about this book today. Now, you guys know that I'm a big Statler Brothers fan. But when I say that I'm a big Statler Brothers fan, you know, honestly, and I'm not trying to big dog it or anything, but when I'm saying that, I don't think of the music first. I think of the guys. I am fans of the men. And those guys, you know, first it was Harold, Don, Phil, and Lou. And I was their opening act sometimes, and I met them on Nashville Network, and when I was their opening act, I would introduce them too, and so they had a way, you know, everybody has a way they prefer to be introduced, everybody does, and so I memorized, I would, you know, say their awards, and then I would say, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome entertainers on and off the record, Harold, Don, Phil, and Lou, the Statler Brothers. And then when Lou left, he was ill, and when he left, he was replaced by Jimmy Fortune. And for a while, that was tough for me, you know, because I was like, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome entertainers on and off the record, Harold, Don, Phil, and Jimmy, the Statler Brothers. It was just, you know, it didn't flow at first. But these guys were they were so good to me. I mean, just very, you know, I mean, now in my life, I mean, everybody's kind of nice to me. Okay, but you remember people who were nice to you when not everybody was. And these guys were just awesome. Don Reed wrote the vast majority of the songs. I wrote a lot of them with his brother Harold. Harold passed away a while back. Harold was the bass. Gary Stuckey says Statler Brothers are awesome. And Don was the lead singer. And Don and I have kept up, Jimmy and I have kept up over the years. And so Don has written several books. And I'm just going to tell you something. You just go to the bookstore and ask for Don Reed, R-E-I-D, and get all the books, because they're all great. But this one, it's called Life Lessons, and it just came out. And I knew I was going to like it. I knew I was going to read it. When I got it, I just didn't know I was going to like it as much as I liked it. And so, people are always asking me, what do you recommend? Well, I recommend this. Okay, and I called Don this morning and asked his permission to read you some of it. And I'll tell you what this is. Life Lessons covers topics of the heart and mind. These are 90 concise and to-the-point chapters. They speak to everyday topics we all may experience on any given day from dawn to bedtime. Don Reed, now think about this. I mean, this is a guy in a Grammy Award-winning, one of the most awarded groups in music. But he has taught a Sunday school class in his home church in Stanton, Virginia for over 3 decades. And in March of 2020, when the COVID pandemic began closing churches and keeping congregations close to home, he improvised an email lesson and sent it to each member of his friendship class on Saturday nights. From these weekly messages, this book was born and developed. And so, it's set up like a devotional, I guess. But when I started reading it, I couldn't read it like a devotional. I read it like in 2 days. I come into the studio really early, and I come in before daylight, and I get in there in the green room and in my recliner, and I read my Bible and quiet, and then I read something like I couldn't quit reading this. So, who said that, Matt? Who said this? Roger Horseman from Ransom, Missouri said he'd been a Statler Brothers fan since he was in high school. By far his favorite group, best harmony of any group. Okay, so I'm going to read you just a few of these, if you guys don't mind. I'm going to start with, I thought this was awesome. And so just think about Don, this superstar in country music, writing these things and sending them to his Sunday school class on Saturday nights. And I just think it's awesome. All right, here we go. This is called A True Parable at Harris Teeter Grocery. If a survey were taken, and it probably has been, I would imagine the 3 most famous parables in the Bible are the prodigal son, the lost sheep, and the Good Samaritan. These stories of Jesus were used to teach and make points of truth and wisdom to anyone in earshot. The prodigal son gives us an insight into the heart of a loving and forgiving father and sets us up for the kind of love we can expect from God himself. This beautiful story holds such a wide charm for all ages and just keeps revealing itself more and more as we grow older. It makes us evaluate ourselves and determine if we have the right stuff when it comes to being the kind of person we know we should be. The lost sheep falls into that category of hard sayings of Jesus. It isn't always easy for followers who have devoted their lives to being the best they can be, taking all the right paths along the way, to accept the fact that one who is lost until the last moment will get more attention than they will. But it's true, and it's an integral part of our growth as Christians. And then there's the Good Samaritan. When we first heard it as little kids, our reaction was, what a nice man to help someone he didn't even know. Then a few years later, when we were aware of the strained and hostile feelings between Jews and Samaritans, we thought, what a caring thing to do for someone who was really an enemy. And as more years passed our way, we realized this man actually stopped and spent his time and eventually his hard-earned money on a stranger he inherently didn't acknowledge as friendly, and maybe even someone who would likely do harm to him if given the chance. The old onion just keeps getting peeled, and the revelations and deep meanings of this simple story cling on us and won't stop speaking to us. I marvel at how Jesus could address so much to all age groups with one simple tale. My Good Samaritan story is not nearly as good or as deep. but it left me with a chilling yet spiritual feeling the night it happened. We, the whole family, were on vacation at the beach, and I drove into a nearby town one evening after dinner to look for a particular brand of bottled water I like. There's a great Harris Teeter supermarket there where we always shop, and this time of evening it was uncrowded as I leisurely walked the aisles. In the bottled water section, I was looking for black raspberry and eventually found the brand I wanted, but could not find the flavor anywhere. There was only one other person in the entire aisle, a man, and we kept passing one another, both looking frantically for our items. I finally said aloud, "I'm looking for black raspberry, and I don't see it anywhere." Surprisingly, he said, "That's funny, so am I." We laughed at that. In about a minute, he called out from the end of the aisle, "I just found some." I walked toward where he was, and as he reached to the very back of a shelf, he pulled out the last remaining 6 bottles of the elusive black raspberry and said, "Here, you take 3, I'll take 3. I said, "No, you found them, you take all of them." But he handed me half of the find. He insisted and said, "No, we'll share." I thanked this total stranger for his generosity and kindness, knowing we would likely never see one another again in our lives. Just another guy, probably on vacation with his family, as I was, who happened into a grocery store on a quiet Saturday night at the beach. But a few minutes later, as I was rounding the end of another aisle, I came upon a huge display of the very brand of bottled water we had been searching for. There must have been 100 bottles of black raspberry stacked up over 6 feet high. I rushed down every aisle to find him, to let him know of the treasure I had just happened upon, but he was nowhere to be found. I went to the checkout counters, even ran out into the parking lot to see if I could spot him, but he was gone, and I never saw him again. We met just for that one moment, and we shared. We often share with friends, but it's a different feeling when you share with strangers who have no ulterior motive, no plot, no plan, just a good, unselfish heart. As I said earlier, not much of a story compared to the Good Samaritan, but a nice experience for a summer night at the beach. The man with 2 tunics should share with him who has none, and the one who has food should do the same. Luke 3:11, words of John the Baptist. And the same goes for 6 bottles of black raspberry water. Isn't that great? Okay, let me see what I'm going to read you next. Okay. Oh, I thought this one was great. Here we go. Let's see, who wrote that back just a minute? Nancy Bergen says she saw the Statler brothers in June 1968 when they opened for Johnny Cash in Salina, Kansas. Wow. Hey, we're going to drop a link for this book, Life Lessons, on the chat, okay? So you can get it. Now, I'm about to read you the Sabbath and the Lord's Day. It's no secret that the Sabbath and the Lord's Day are 2 completely different things. Some may call our Sundays the Sabbath, but this just isn't the case. The Sabbath is spelled out clearly in the Old Testament. One good example is, remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. Exodus 20:8-10. It's also known as the 4th commandment. The Sabbath was, is, and always will be Saturday. From sundown Friday till sundown Saturday, it is as it was meant to be. The commandment goes on to say, no working. The Lord made the world in 6 days, then he rested on the 7th, and you should too. He made it holy, and you should respect and honor that. Then along comes we New Testament Christians living under grace instead of the law, and our allegiance goes to the first day of the week. Early on the first day of the week, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene went to the tomb and saw that the stone had been removed from the entrance. John 20:1. Resurrection Day became the Protestant day to keep holy, the day to worship and honor the risen Jesus, the day to rest and not work. Thus, another story from the Reed family files of memories to emphasize a point. Brother Harold, Sister Fay, and I took turns keeping our widowed and much-loved mother occupied and entertained the last 6 years of her life. We were honored to do so and often vied for the opportunity to do it. She was with one of us and our families almost every day, even though she continued to live alone. It was for a summer Sunday afternoon ride, the year she turned 90, that Harold and Brenda picked her up and wound up in Charlottesville. During this casual trek across Afton Mountain from Stanton, Virginia, Mom mentioned she was in need of a new small rug for her front porch. Without further ado, Harold pulled into Sam's Club, and the three of them got out and went inside. Now, the only way to buy my mother something was to take it to her, because if she was with you, there was no way she would let you pay for anything. That was deeply embedded in her depression-influenced pay-as-you-go makeup. So she found a little rug to her liking, paid for it, and all was well. Sometime on the way back home, she said from the back seat, "Well, that was a first." "A first what?" Harold said. "The first time I've ever bought something on a Sunday." "What? You never bought anything on a Sunday?" "Nope." "Not even bread or milk?" "Never." "Nothing from the drugstore?" "Not on a Sunday." Harold came to me that week and confessed he felt terrible about what had happened and about the role he had played in it. I assured him Mom wasn't upset about it, and neither should he be, and it was just one of those things none of us were aware of. But the next time all the families got together, I made a point to say out loud, "Can you believe that my brother made our 90-year-old mother break a sacred tradition of hers and buy a rug on a Sunday? What a horrible thing that was to do." I had to do this to him because he would have done it to me. We all laughed about it and have many times since, and no one more than Mama. But I've often thought, 90 years? That's a lifetime commitment, a rare loyalty to a belief, a strong sense of strict values in keeping the Lord's Day separate and holy. I don't think we'll ever see the likes of her again. She was harder on herself than she ever was on any of us. And then the verse from Proverbs 31, 25 through 28. She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. She speaks with wisdom, and faithful instruction is on her tongue. She watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children arise and call her blessed. Patricia Matthews Massengale says, "Just ordered the book. Wow, you love this? I had no idea about Don Reed. Well, I'm telling you, this book is great. I'm going to read you another. Okay, is that okay, Martha? Okay, all right. Let's see. I've got this whole thing. I'm going to read you two more. All right, I'm going to read you two more. They're short, but I'm going to read you two more. Let's see, I've got so many marked. Which ones do I want to read? Okay. I'm going to read that one last. I'm going to read now politics versus, well, this is patriotism versus politics. Somebody says, I have read other books of his and absolutely love the Statler brothers. That's Debbie Schultz Heath. Okay, patriotism versus politics. It was a family fun kind of thing. We laughed about it at the time and for years to come. The 1964 presidential election was upon us, and it was the talk that filled not just the newspapers and television, but our house as well. Republican Barry Goldwater was challenging incumbent Democrat Lyndon Johnson. My brother and sister were each married, but I was still at home, and the discussions about the pros and cons of the candidates were lively. It was suspected early on that Mom and Dad might be voting different tickets this time around. We couldn't be sure, but it was all our suspicions that Mom was going for Johnson and Dad for Goldwater. My brother, never one to let anything lay quietly, tried teasing and cajoling our mother into admitting her preference out loud. All this was to no avail. Excuse me. All this was to no avail, as she would only offer an evasive comment and a smile. No amount of wheedling and sweet talk from her oldest son would move her. The election came and went, and to this day, none of us are any wiser as to how Mom cast her vote. For decades after, Harold would ask her out of the clear blue, "Mom, who was it now that you voted for in '64? And she would slyly answer, "If I wanted you to know, I would have told you 20 years ago." This kind of amusement over politics and candidates is a thing of the past. Today, with the nastiness and insulting nature of both parties toward the other, it is a home-splitting issue. Then add the strength and indecent power of social media, and friendly disagreements turn quickly into anger and even violence. What has happened? When did it happen? Why did it happen? And how long, in the name of all that is sensible, will it last? I can honestly say my wife and I are usually on the same political page. However, there are times when we aren't. She has her views, I have mine. We still eat together, still sleep in the same bed, still live peacefully and lovingly in the same house, just like my parents. But I see it separating loved ones today. Friendships are shattered, old pals of years gone by no longer speak to one another, and what party you're going to vote for has become the most important aspect of people's lives. It defines who they are. What's up, folks? What's up? The entire 40-year career of the Statler brothers was one spent waving the flag and professing our patriotism. We opened every concert with the national anthem and had a huge star-spangled banner as our backdrop. Yet we never once spoke of a favored party or offered public allegiance and endorsement to any candidate. We were summoned to the White House on numerous occasions to perform and have dinner, sometimes just for meetings and luncheons. I say this in all humbleness to make the point that never once did we consider the party in power at the time. We didn't even consider the person in power at the time. It was the office we were honoring. For all those who have forgotten, this is called patriotism. Politics, on the other hand, has become the questionable art of shunning those, and calling them names, who don't believe in every policy tactic that arises each day. Politics is believing that you can't put cows and horses in the same field and expect them to get along. You can, which only proves animals are more conducive to common sense than calculated politicians. Because the only places I'm aware of that have a center aisle separating their occupants are the Senate and the House of Representatives. We Americans don't separate gender in public, don't separate races in public, don't separate religion in public, don't separate attitudes or classes in public, only in Congress, and that is called politics with a capital P. The day is past where everyone understands that patriotism and politics are two different words. If you're caught waving the flag or being nice to someone of another persuasion, you're canceled, ridiculed, and destroyed. You must show wrath and annoyance to everyone who doesn't agree with you 100% of the time on 100% of the issues. This kind of thinking is tiresome and small-minded and keeps us all looking back to some good old days of yore. Remember Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill? They could argue their points all morning and then play golf together that afternoon. There are many pictures of them with their arms around one another. They liked and respected each other, and the times allowed them to show it. Can you even imagine such a thing happening in Washington today? And he closes with a quote from Ronald Reagan: "The time has come to turn back to God and reassert our trust in Him for the healing of America." Gary Stuckey says this is so true. This is great. Appreciate you reading this. Okay, I'm going to read one last one. I love this one. And so this is the last one from Don Reed's life lessons. And there are 90 of these in this book. Okay, so you definitely want to get this book. Okay, this one is titled, So, What Denomination Are You? I'm going to make an educated, or wait a minute, let me start over. I'm sorry. I said educated, and the word is uneducated. Okay, so let me just start over. This one I'm going to read is, So, what denomination are you? I'm going to make an uneducated guess that at least half of everyone reading this right now who is a churchgoer has been a member of more than one denomination. It's been my experience that folks don't just change churches from time to time, but in the process, flip over to other theologies and spiritual ways of thinking at different points of their lives. Maybe you've investigated the doctrines and decided that you like the way they do things across the street at the Episcopal Church. You like the liturgies and the rites and the more formal ways of worship. And if this suits your nature and you find it more inspiring, I think that's just fine. Or it could be that you find yourself more in tune with the Lutherans down the pike. You prefer their thinking and the presenting of the Lord's Supper. It's called consubstantiation. Did I say that right? I don't know. Meaning they believe the body of Christ is in, with, and under the bread. They also have a tiered form of government with bishops as key officials. And if this is more appealing to you, then I think that's just fine. Could be, on the other hand, you find you have a leaning toward that pretty stately old Methodist church on the corner downtown. You feel John Wesley had the right ideas in order when he put this denomination in motion. You like their take on social issues and their belief in the human decision in one's conversion. And you want your minister to stay on the move about every 5 years. If this makes you more comfortable and in closer touch with the Holy Spirit, I think that too is fine. And if that Baptist church out there in the country or across town, and there are many different brands, Southern, American, Primitive, National, Reformed, etc., catches your eye, you just may want to give it a try. You may like the sound of free will instead of predestination. You may feel more cleansed with full immersion than a sprinkling when it comes to baptism. And if all this gives you a warmer feeling of the presence of God, then I think this is absolutely just fine. As long as Jesus is in them all, everything will be okay. I still belong to the very same denomination I was born into. Even go to the very same church into which I was born, reared, baptized, and joined at the early age of 12. So what could I possibly add to this discussion? More than you might think, as I have a story I feel compelled to tell on myself at this particular point. Debbie is Southern Baptist, while I am Presbyterian. We never saw a need to change that situation when we married, and we're very happy with the arrangement to this day. I go to many of her events, and she goes to many of mine, but we both head different ways on Sunday mornings. This story, however, begins on a Wednesday night in a Bible study at her Baptist church quite a few years ago. I love all her fellow members and always feel at home there, and especially at these informal roundtable discussions in the middle of the week. One night, the topic of denominations came up, and knowing that I was the only non-Baptist in the room, someone, more out of fun than challenge, said, "Hey Don, why are you a Presbyterian?" I had to smile at this, as I had never been pointedly asked such a question, but I took great pride in giving what I thought was a very profound answer. I took off on an in-depth oral dissertation about John Calvin and John Knox and their tenets of the faith and some of that glorious stuff about predestination and the elect and just all kinds of 16th century Scottish theology. Oh man, was I ever impressive. But then the next day, I got to thinking about what all I'd said, and I went over to see my mother. I asked her, "Mom, why are we Presbyterians?" She said in her gentle and matter-of-fact way, Well, your grandfather, that would have been her father, was born and raised a Lutheran, and he was the one who made the change. By this time, I'm thinking to myself, really? I'd never heard this story before. My grandfather was deeper into all this than I'd ever given him credit for. It was my turn to be impressed. I said to her, "You're telling me he's the one who changed the family's whole denomination?" She said, "Yes, he was. When he married your grandmother and they set up housekeeping and got a home of their own, their house was closer to the Presbyterian church than it was to the Lutheran church. And that's why you're a Presbyterian." My dear mother could always bring things down to an earthly understanding and leave me, though a little deflated, always laughing at myself. Did I go back to that Baptist Bible study group and correct what I had told them? No, I did not. I'll let them read it right here the same way you did. And I'm still laughing at myself. Is that great? That is so great. Don Reed is a treasure. He's still living in Stanton, Virginia. He and Debbie and still teaching the Sunday school class. And the Statlers have retired, but you can still get their music and you know, we often listen to their music. I was just talking to somebody the other day about, I'll tell you who it was. It was Beaver Applin, who is the founder of Buc-ee's, and we were agreeing that that the song "Do You Remember These" is the greatest look back song that has ever been written, and Don and Harold wrote that. So that's the book, Life Lessons by Don Reed, and there's a link there on the chat. Please get it and maybe read these with your family, okay? Be something to do instead of letting everybody play games or whatever, all right? And maybe one a night would be good. These are just great to me. Don Reed, Life Lessons. And that's the Blue Plate Special for today. We will see you on Thursday. Thank you for being here. Bye-bye.